Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kathleen. In today's video, I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys the books that I read in the month of March. So in the month of March, I actually ended up having a great reading month. I read a total of 7 books. I definitely could have read more, but I just kind of ran out of time. I am so proud of how much I read. I am hoping that the same continues on for the month of April, and yeah, but let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first book that I read during the month of March was actually my wrapped book, and it was Walk on Earth, a Stranger by Ray Carson. I actually ended up really enjoying this book. I have read one other book by Ray Carson, which was Girl of Fire and Thorns, and I actually did not like that book as much as I wanted to, as much as I heard that everybody else loved, but I ended up really liking this book. So this is set during the gold rush era, and so our main character, she is someone who detects gold. So her family is usually very well off because she manages to find gold. Now her parents are actually killed because someone discovers her ability, and she ends up running away. She ends up joining her friend who's going to California. This book is a lot of traveling, and normally I don't like books that kind of focus too much on the traveling part of books because I find that they tend to be very boring. However, the main plot of the story is the journey. It's the journey from Eastern United States to California. It was actually really interesting. I really liked the book. I loved the characters. I really did like our main character. I thought she was fun and she was very relatable. I ended up giving this book 4 stars, and I already ordered the other 2 books because this is a trilogy and I cannot wait to read the rest of the book. Alright, and then the next book that I read is definitely one of the best books that I've read this year. You'll see it on my best books that I've read in 2019 video that I will do at the end of the year because I just love this book. It is definitely now one of my favorite books of all time, and this was one of the books that you guys recommended to me to read during March as part of my Read Your Favorite Books March TBR, and it is 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book so much. I understand why so many people love this book. Now, in case you guys don't know what it is, this is an adult novel, and it follows this reporter who is doing a piece on Evelyn Hugo, who is this extremely famous actress. Evelyn Hugo is telling this reporter all about her life, starting from the very beginning when she was young. Evelyn Hugo was married 7 times. She's telling the story that also centers around her 7 husbands and why she was married 7 different times. I love this book. It was just the right amount of drama and angst and romance and everything that makes a book perfect. Like, the thing about Evelyn Hugo, she's just someone who you're not sure if you want to cheer for her, you're not sure if you want to hate her. She's someone who's unapologetic. She lived her life, and every decision that she made on her own. She doesn't regret most of the decisions that she makes, and I truly respect her for that. I want to read more books by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am so glad that this was recommended to me. I believe this was recommended to me by Sandy from Sandy Reads a Lot, because this again has become one of my favorite books of all time. Alright, and then the next book was also another recommendation, and this was recommended to me by Fiona McGregor, and it was Persuasion by Jane Austen. So this is a bind up of Jane Austen's 7 novels. So obviously Persuasion is one of them. It was the first Jane Austen book that I read. I've never read anything by Jane Austen, not even Pride and Prejudice. So I was kind of like apprehensive going into this book. Obviously this was written during, I want to say like the 1800s. So obviously the language is a little bit different. However, I actually ended up really enjoying Persuasion. It's actually really interesting just how much drama there was back then. It was just so entertaining. So we're following this girl, and she is reunited with this guy whom she was involved with a few years ago, but she actually turned him down because of a recommendation by someone who's older than her, because I guess he didn't have a lot of money, he didn't have a name for himself. So this friend told her not to go for him because he just wasn't going to be able to give her the life that she deserves. So he comes back, and he's actually now pretty set. He made a name for himself in the Navy, I think it was, and he is now pretty well off in terms of money. So he comes back, and I guess some of the family friends are trying to set him up with someone else, and she's kind of like standing aside and letting him do his own thing because, you know, she's the one who turned him down, not the other way around. I love this book. It was really entertaining. I had to be honest, I did have to get used to the writing style a little bit, but I still quite enjoyed it. I ended up giving Persuasion 4 stars. It was really entertaining. It was really fun, and I actually cannot wait to read the rest of Jane Austen novels. I hope that they're all as entertaining as Persuasion was. And then the next book that I read was Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schuldt. This was actually the Biblio Squad's book pick of the month for the month of February, March, I don't quite remember. We had our live show a couple weeks ago, and I'll leave it linked on the screen for you guys to check it out if you like. And I actually ended up really enjoying this book. It's about these 4 queens, and they all govern over a quadrant of this place. They all work harmoniously together to keep peace between the 4 quadrants and also govern over their own quadrant. So one day these queens start getting murdered. Someone is assassinating these queens, and we have to find out why. So it is a little bit of also murder mystery, and I actually quite enjoyed this book. This book is actually a standalone, which I did not know going into the book, and I actually quite enjoyed the way it was written. I thought it ended perfectly. I would not mind a second book just because I feel like it would be great to know what happens to the characters afterwards, but it ended great. Everything wrapped up nicely. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I actually cannot wait to read more by Astrid Schuldt. Alright, and then the next book that I read was also another recommendation for you guys, and this was recommended to me by R. Snow. Thank you so much for recommending me this book, and it was The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. So this book is about a girl who loses her mother to suicide, and she's trying to understand why. She's known that her mother has battled depression her whole life, but it kind of obviously still comes as a shock to her when her mother takes her own life. Basically what happens is that after her mother commits suicide, this red bird appears, and our main character believes that her mother transformed into this red bird, and she's reunited with her mother's family, whom she kind of like hasn't talked to in a long time. The writing is beautiful. It's very purple prose. It's very flowery, very poetic. The story was also, in my opinion, very metaphorical with the whole red bird thing. She had to go to China to meet her mother's family, like her grandparents, and I enjoyed that part of the story as well. I loved her getting to know her Chinese heritage and getting to know her grandparents. As beautiful as this book was, for some reason I just could not connect to it. I didn't really connect with the main character. The one part that really struck me was at the end when she was returning to the United States. She and her father have really connected after this tragic event has happened, and that was pretty much the only part that I really connected to it. But this entire story I just couldn't grasp. I'm sorry, but this book just did not resonate with me, and I honestly wished I loved this book as much as everyone else seems to have, but I just didn't. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars because, again, I did enjoy the story, but it just did not resonate with me. And the next book that I read was actually a reread for me, and it is Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray. The reason why I wanted to reread this book as well is because the 3rd and final book in this trilogy just came out. It came out on April 2nd, and I still haven't read the 2nd book, so I decided to go ahead and reread the whole series in order to prepare to read the 3rd book. And I love this book as much as I loved the first time I read it. In case you guys don't know, this is a sci-fi book set in outer space. It is about this girl who comes across this android, or they call them mechs, and this mech is special. His name is Abel. He is a robot that actually gains feelings. He develops a human soul. So this, our main character, she's actually a soldier from a planet called Genesis, and Genesis is at war with Earth, and that's where Abel is from. So she's normally used to taking down mechs, but then she realizes that he has a soul, and it's a beautiful story. I actually really enjoyed this book. We get to see so much of this world, the galaxy, because we go from a lot of different planets, and there's so much action and adventure in this book. Like, the characters are so relatable, and they're so amazingly developed, in my opinion, and I just connected with these characters, especially with Abel, as he comes to realize the human side of him. And I love this book so so much. The first time I read it last year, I gave it 5 stars. I gave it another 5 stars again, but I will highly recommend to anyone who loves a good sci-fi book set in outer space. Alright, and the 7th and final book that I read during the month of March was actually the Once Upon a Read-Alongs book pick of the month for the month of March, which is a book club that I co-host with my good friend Chloe from the Brunette Bibliophile, and I'll leave our live show for this book linked on the screen for you guys to check it out. But the book is The Blood Spell by C.J. Redwine. This is the 4th and final book in the Ravenspire series, and it is a series that they're not direct sequels to one another, but every book is different main characters and it has its own story, so every book is a sequel companion to each other, and every single book is a different fairy tale retelling. The Blood Spell is a retelling of Cinderella, and I have to say this is one of my favorite books in the series so far. I loved it. It is about this girl named Blue. Blue is the Cinderella in the story, and she runs a alchemy store with her father, and her father is murdered one day, and she becomes the ward, I guess you could say, of this lady who pretty much lost everything that she owned. She used to be a very high class, very rich lady, so Blue has to get out of from this situation, and there's also people being killed, children going missing. It's a really good story. I would highly recommend it. Again, every book is based off of a different fairy tale. It follows different characters, a different plot line, so every book is kind of like a standalone. Every book is set in the same world. I ended up giving this book, I want to say 4 or 4.5 stars. I love this book. I loved the spin that the author took on the original Cinderella fairy tale. It was really good, and I would just highly recommend the Ravenspire series. And there you go, guys. That is all for my very long March wrap-ups. I'm so proud of myself. I hope that I can read just as much in the month of April. Let me know down in the comments below, how was your reading month? How many books did you end up reading? Which one was your favorite? Because I would really love to know. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. All of my social medias are linked down below, including Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads if you'd like to follow me on those platforms. I hope to see you guys on my next video. Have a good day, guys, and keep reading. Bye!